Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. Today, we have our special episode with our OSG, other side of the game, our resident fantasy expert, and we're going to talk about daily fantasy. That's actually one of the things that I've always had interest in, probably one of the most fun conversations that we can have. And I hit my boy up, and he said he's going to pull up on a regular basis. So every week we'll have some sort of an update for you all for the weekend. She'll be hitting you, like this one will hit you on Friday. They'll probably hit you either on Friday or Saturday every week, so you can have something to evaluate when it comes to your daily fantasy, as well as our weekly Frozen 5, which is our Westgate Super Contest picks. I will have those as well prepared for you Saturday morning. So, Tristan, what it do, baby?
We are ready for the year, because after the video, we'll follow up that with the report. You get your full read.
Yep.
And that's what you got to do before you build. You watch this, you read, you think, and you build.
There you go. Exactly. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you take all the information we provide you and use it with whatever research you use as well. Our goal here is to talk you maybe over the ledge or onto a ledge, depending on what you're thinking about, and help you with just evaluating what to go with in daily fantasy. So our goal is to hit those millions and at the same time retire having fun. So with that, we're going to dive right in. So, hey, thank you guys for checking us out. If you're here on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, share, because sharing is caring. And thank you for listening to us wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. So, OSG, how are you feeling?
I'm doing good.
It is Football Thursday. Yes. While we're sitting here, the Cowboys and Buccaneers are playing. We won't talk about them. It's going back and forth, which is actually, we were talking about this in pre-production. That's what you want.
Yes.
That's what you want to look for when you're playing daily fantasy or even just regular fantasy football. You want those games where you know it's going to go back and forth, because that means points, that means money, that means opportunity, and you want to take advantage of that.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Right, which is really step one of the building process. You know, you look at Vegas, you look at those totals.
Yeah.
It's telling you something. Look at those totals that's over 50. Sometimes they'll go under, but that's telling you the pace of games, and you want to get those. You want to find some games that you really want to target that'll help you build your player pool.
Right.
That'll begin to help you narrow down, because when you look at it in a grand scheme, when you can pick anybody, you can get overwhelmed. So that helps you narrow it down a little bit.
Exactly, and that's the one thing to think about when it comes to. So we're going to give you guys the method of the madness, and that's the starting point is definitely the Vegas lines. And the reason why, well, not the lines, the totals. The reason why is Vegas always knows something. And if you think about the analytics they use, the smarts, the sharps that they have, the smart people that they have running all this stuff, the numbers they run, somehow they always get close. It's always, I mean, there's some moments where they are way off, but it's a lot more rare than it is for them to be really on the nail.
NFL is Vegas' most accurate sport.
Which is terrifying, that they can figure out a sport that is all chance. They can tell you damn near pinpoint where a game's going to be. So the totals are key, and so we'll have 6 to talk through in a bit in the game stacks. And we'll go through method of the madness. We've got the game stacks, and we'll talk positions. That way you have an idea, and then of course you'll get the Frozen 5 at the end. So with that, first and foremost, Vegas totals. What is the next thing you look at?
So after Vegas totals, like I said, it helps you kind of build a player pool. You get those games that you love, and then you kind of start working it out. Quarterbacks, you look at who they're going to be stacking with, because you want to kind of correlate your lineups. I like putting quarterbacks with receivers. You get one big play, you get 2 lineups on your roster that gets a big jump.
That is true. You double dip sometimes.
You double dipping.
And you got to make sure you stack with the proper receiver. Like, for example, this Cowboys game, perfect stack would be CeeDee Lamb with Dak Prescott, because this is the year that we're expecting CeeDee to break out, because Amari Cooper is always producing.
Yeah, and on this first drive, you know, Brady and Brown. That's one of his favorite targets.
Brown, and you know that exactly. So that's one when it comes to the matchups and the lineups with your teams. You want to look on that stack. You want to prepare. You want to look at what quarterback likes who they like, because they always like each other. They have favorites.
The more you build, you diversify a little bit. You have Brady and you have Antonio Brown, but then you have Brady and Godwin. Even though Godwin didn't do nothing till
to the end, so he's going to touchdown. He's going to touchdown now.
Touchdown.
So exactly.
That's all good.
Exactly.
All good.
So next thing you want to look at when it comes to building a lot of these lineups, look at injuries, key injuries. That's one thing to recognize, because then you can see who's going to replace who. And the beauty of the key injury piece to me that when I build my stacks is if you have a key player, like for example, Baltimore right now is in shambles. Ooh. They've got I think they've got 6 people out with either Achilles or an ACL tear.
Yeah. You're down to 2 running backs.
Exactly. So behind them, though, those new people that come in, they usually don't adjust their number until the second week.
Especially week one. You got people like Mac Jones, who was priced as a backup before Cam got injured. And that was one of the points that I would make is that waiting until Saturday night, Sunday morning, because you need that news. You need to know who's going to be in and out because you may have this whole thought process, working on that all weekend, and then
all of it goes down the drain.
Kind of it changes a little bit. You don't get too many surprises, but you're kind of waiting to see.
Exactly.
So you're kind of holding off a little bit. Use the most relevant, up-to-date information to help build these lineups.
Right, exactly. And our lineups, we build them through DraftKings. So make sure you check out DraftKings. Yeah. We'll actually post lineups on our Instagram page. You'll see them at Unfair Sports as well as the new OSG Instagram page. I'll make sure to add that on here so you'll see it below. But to go along with that, so you got your key injuries, the time that the games are playing. That's another one that I like as a key factor because some games that if you have a West Coast travel to the East Coast and it's an early game, 11 o'clock out East is what? 8 o'clock in
and
the
lot
West.
of times, and you'll see that in those Vegas totals. You'll see that in those lines.
Yep.
You'll see that. So, again, they're factoring that into there a little bit.
Yep.
So, you don't have to think that it's an edge too much, but take some of these factors. Take weather in the factor.
Yep, weather's a big one.
Take travel in the factor. And you take injuries and you take game rhythm and people that's hot and, all that flows. And that helps you to think along with the show we record, the report that we write. Plus, what you throw a little bit of yourself in there, and that helps you build a lineup.
There you go. And with that, think about this with weather. That's a good one for like defense.
Yes.
Because if you got a game where it's going to be snowed over like the Kansas City games, or it's going to be hella rain up in the Northeast, guess what? They're not going to be running. They're not going to pass the ball much. It's going to be more running. It's going to be a lot of turnover on downs. Yep. Maybe actually just straight turnovers in general. Yes. So there's a great opportunity for special teams and defense to really bring you in some bread. So that's all the pieces to go together. And that's why with this video and the audio on this podcast, we'll provide you with a lot of those updates for you. We'll do the work on the back end for you to where all you got to do is supplement what we provide you to make sure you hit that. And then the last thing I look at as factors to me is who's the coaches. Which coach is going against who? I'm going to probably take Andy Reid over Stefanski over in that Cleveland Kansas City game. But it's no shade to Stefanski. It's more so it's Andy Reid. And we know what to be prepared with him. He's really good off bye weeks. Yes. He's good off of a few weeks off when he has time to truly prepare. That means you know that his team's going to be a well-oiled machine. It's something to mentally know that's going to happen. So that's the beauty of it. So that's one other factor I always keep in mind. Anything else you want to add?
No, because that's going to lead us to a few people, because especially when we talk about we'll get to that. We'll get to some coaches. We'll do that as we move through there. But I think that's a good start.
Yeah, it's a good foundation.
It's a good foundation.
So keep in mind with that. Like I said, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. Like, subscribe, share, because sharing is caring. There's also the audio version, which is on the podcast, Unfair Sports. You'll see the OSG logo. And make sure that you check that out wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. Game stacks. Without further ado, we're diving right into the stacks. So, all right, the 6 games that we look at because of the totals. These are the 6 highest total games as of this morning, which is Thursday the 9th. These totals will change. The totals go up and down throughout the week, throughout the weekend. It's all based upon whatever circumstances are happening that Vegas and information that they get with their intel. Yep. So we're just going to give you the ones that we currently have. It's like I said, could change over the weekend. And as OSG mentioned, look at that on Saturday. Saturday evening is your best time to finalize what you think your rosters are going to look like, unless they tell you players are game time decisions.
Those totals are moving because of some injuries. Because there's still some practice. We lost Gus Edwards in practice today.
Yep. Teams will practice tomorrow, so you're going to see more of that.
So that's why one of the reasons totals will move. And then just as more information with who's really starting for a team.
Exactly.
That will adjust Vegas at times.
Yes, Vegas knows.
Yep. So it's important to keep up.
Now, the good thing for DraftKings and in FanDuel, if you use FanDuel, you can leverage this information for that. But we use the numbers from DraftKings is that they set their week 1 numbers, and they're set.
Yes. And one of the reasons that we looking at DraftKings, it's a PPR site. Most of the season-long people are used to that.
What does PPR stand for?
Points per reception.
There you go.
So I'll say some stuff, so I have to make sure I explain it. But
That's the goal when we explain this episode.
Most of the season-long people are used to that. FanDuel is a little bit more touchdown-based. So it's hard to pinpoint touchdowns, though we can. But the PPR are thinking behind that a little more geared to that.
I agree. So, I agree with you with that. That's as a key factor.
Be our basis.
All right, so game stacks. Let's start off with the first game that I think is probably key and critical.
That you'll be at.
I will be at said game. I'm pretty excited about this. It'll be the Tennessee Titans and the Arizona Cardinals. Their over-under game total is set at 52, which means they expect a shootout. They expect a lot of scoring. Yes. And so when it comes to stacks, the perfect set of stacks with that, I'm thinking you got to definitely have Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, and the thing that you like about this game is from both sides that this total is high. You have two up-tempo teams.
That's true.
So they're going to run a high number of plays before Kyler Murray got hurt before Week 10 with his shoulder.
Yep.
He was just he was one of the best scoring fantasy quarterbacks. So
he's my starting fantasy quarterback too.
You start on the visiting side. You start with Murray and D Hopkins. They showed good rapport Week 1.
Yep.
Immediately got 2. There's no reason that they can't. And where you go from there, that's where we're going to be question marks at. How's AJ Green going to look?
He's aged, but he's not bad.
Has Christian Kirk, is he kind of getting pushed out? Because they did go out, you think about it. They signed AJ Green. They went and drafted Rondale Moore. And I think that he's actually at $3K at bottom price, which is going to be a lot of these really, really cheap receivers. That's going to be the theme, is really, really cheap receivers on DK. But Rondale Moore, the rookie, I think you might get some goal line touches. They used him like that in college a little bit. Hand off in the red zone. So at $3K at bottom price, that's like a free square if he does something, especially in the PPR league, because we are salary based. You got to save some money. You can't get all the studs. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point to think about. Is the way that the salaries work on there, you have to make sure that mathematically that you're taking advantage of everything you can.
Yeah, I'm looking at the passing game. I don't know what to do with the running game because James Conner and Chase Edmonds, I don't know what they're going to do with them. I always like Edmonds, but that's a little bit murky. And then when you look at Tennessee, you got Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Julio Jones. And I think that you just build lineups with Tannehill and Brown, and then you build it with Tannehill and Julio, and then you build Derrick Henry. Because I think that a lot of people are going to be looking at this passing game, and Derrick Henry is the one that's going to run all over everybody.
Right, and it's a funny thing you said that because you mentioned that these are two up-tempo teams.
Yes.
But Derrick Henry is they run the ball with Derrick Henry like almost 400 times a season.
Yeah, because I think the build this week is to pay up at running back. Get you the studs. Get you Derrick Henry. Get you Dalvin Cook. Get you Alvin Kamara. Take the cheap quarterbacks and some receivers. But I think Derrick Henry, him with Chubb, which we'll get to him, be my two favorite running back plays. So I had to really kind of up Derrick Henry because I'm gonna play a lot of him on Sunday.
Okay.
Going to play a lot of Derrick Henry in that game.
I can appreciate that and I can respect it. That's an important one. So keep an eye on that in that game. You got Kyler, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green. I don't know about AJ Green yet. I need to see what he looks like because he came out that injury basically last year. Last 2 years he's basically injury ridden.
And then you get into a new offense. You talked about offense. So you talked about the coaching change.
Yes.
You get into a new system. Up tempo offense, and Fountain of Youth is in Arizona. You go out there to the sun. You're out of Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. And now let me tell you this: don't touch either one of these defenses.
No,
these totals are a little too high to be trustworthy.
They're two bad defenses. You can play defenses in two high total games because the ball is going to be in there 100 times. If both quarterbacks are going to throw.
If the defenses are good. And Titans fans already hate me right now because of my conversation around Julio Jones, but I don't know how I feel. I mean, they could pick up Bud Dupree.
Yeah.
I'm cool. I like
a new year. And that's the thing with week 1. We are all going on 2020 and 2019 stats and research, so it is week 1.
Yes, it's true. This is very true. And this is something I also like to mention. I forgot to mention at the beginning is I'm very leery to be super confident in week 1 because there's so much unknown. There's so many new pieces.
Don't overreact.
Don't overreact this week. This is your week to get an understanding of who you should pay attention to and who you should probably start ignoring.
But everybody is mispriced, so keep that in mind. These cheap guys we talk about.
Money is made this week.
I talk about Rondale Moore, and and honestly, Murray's a little higher than I'm wanting to spend, but in those game stacks, you play him and you stack him with your quarterback.
Yep.
So
it's worth it at that
It's
point.
worth it.
It's worth it at that point.
Everybody's
So, okay.
mispriced.
For the Titans, we're looking at Tannehill, stack him with either A.J. Brown or Julio Jones, either or do both.
Yes.
You'll have that option, of course, as you have, if you spend more on more lineups.
I wouldn't play them both in the same lineup. AJ
No.
and Julio.
Do either A.J. with one and then Julio with another.
Yes.
But I would not play all three. I wouldn't play Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry.
Tannehill. You can play him with Henry, and then you got exposure to all the offense. You got the whole passing game and the running game through Tannehill and Henry themselves.
There you go.
Don't forsake stacking the quarterback with their running back, because Tennessee, they stick to the run. They stick to their guns.
They do.
Even in those shootout games, they from behind, they'll run the ball.
That is true.
So
That's a good
keep
point.
that in mind. Them. Now, a lot of people won't think Derrick Henry is a good PPR play because he doesn't catch a lot of passes. That's another thing with your running back picks. But when you run for 200 yards and you run over everybody and score 2 touchdowns, it doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
So
it doesn't matter. The 200 yards is all that matters at that point. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Can we move on?
Let's move on to the next game. So next game we have on here. You want to jump right into Seattle?
Yes, I got Seattle at Indy.
Yes.
And we're not going in the order of the totals. We just,
We're going to jump around.
Yes.
It's okay, but, I'll have it listed out. You'll see at the bottom who we're talking through, but we're at Seattle taking on Indianapolis in Indy. The total in this one right now is 48.5.
In a dome, which you like.
It is in a dome, which, like you said, that's what you like. Location is another thing to look at in your factors.
Especially
it's always
late
a plus.
This part of the season, but
doesn't mean much.
November, December.
Yep.
When everybody's getting snowed out, rained out. Who's playing in a dome is important. So.
Exactly. And with that, usually domes lead to high totals. Perfect example. If you play season-long fantasy, Matt Ryan is probably one of the best to pick up, and so was Matthew Stafford because they played in domes most of the time, and it means that they were going to get a whole bunch of yards. Yeah. And also, at the same time, they were always behind. So
with bad defense.
So, there. But the point is that quarterbacks in domes typically always put up big numbers, and that's something that you want to take advantage of. And so in this game, we have of course, to start off with Seattle. Russell Wilson, you got to stack him with one of the 3 monsters that they have.
Yes.
Either DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, or Gerald Everett, who is really cheap.
Yes.
You might want to take him along with the stack.
So here's the thing with Everett, too, and that's even if you're not stacking, again, when you're building your lineup and you're starting with those quarterbacks, you got to feel in position.
You do have to feel in.
Gerald Everett is good. The old coordinator that's moved over to Seattle came from New Orleans, so he's got some experience with him.
Yep.
They talk about that they want to run an up-tempo offense. So if you can get Russell Wilson actually throwing the ball,
let Russ cook. Everybody talks about wanting Russ to cook.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to let Russ cook this time.
Indy is a little better against the run.
Yes.
They like to force targets to tight ends, for whatever reason. So that's another reason for Everett. But when you're looking at DK Metcalf, nobody really on Indy's secondary can size up with him.
Nope.
And Lockett is, Lockett's going to always be what he is. Good route runner in the slot, again, PPR. So if we think the game goes up tempo, which we might, and so you got to consider the other side. But I do like Seattle quite a bit.
Let's talk about that part, though. Route running wide receivers. Tyler Lockett, he's fast enough.
With a competent quarterback.
He's got a competent quarterback. And this is something to think about when it comes to those guys is those receivers that run really good routes catch a lot of passes.
Yes, they do.
Because they're always in the spot that they're supposed to be, or they're in new spots where their quarterback has a place to throw it.
Yeah,
so think of those guys when you're with a PPR league. That's something that is a big advantage. Is guys that can do that.
We're targeting targets. Yeah, we want them to catch 10 passes, but we need a guy that, especially for what Lockett and Metcalf are going to be priced. They're going to be higher than some of those cheap guys. So
exactly.
You want them to look at 8 and 10 targets. You want, somebody that has a chance to get quality targets from a good quarterback.
Exactly. And DK Metcalf is more so your burner, even though Tyler's not as fast as DK, technically. But Tyler is such a good route runner. He's going to get looked at constantly by a starting quarterback. And he's one of the many.
Each week is going to be one of those 2 guys. So if you like Russ, you just go back and forth. You build a lineup with Metcalf and whatever your rest of your lineup is and the running backs of life, and then you go back and you build one with Metcalf.
There you go.
And then you find a way to get Everett in some. We talked about correlating those lineups. Let your lineup tell a story. And so with that being said, you look at the other side of the game, OSG.
Yep.
By the way.
Good
Carson,
plug there.
I like Jonathan Taylor the most on the Indy side because I just don't know what Carson Wentz is going to be or do.
Speaking of Wentz has always had really good starts every season. Now, this year is a little different only because, not because he changed teams, because he's going back to his old offensive coordinator. Right. Yes. This is his old coach. So he's in the most comfortable spot he could possibly be in. Yes. The thing about this situation is, what's up with that foot? He came back at about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks. Right. So this is because they gave it the timetable of 5 to 12, which is a very big, wide gap that doesn't tell us anything. So I don't know, like you said, I don't know what that foot's going to look like. I don't know how comfortable he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be thinking about that foot while he's playing, especially because that Seattle defense, even though it's not the Legion of Boom, Jamal Adams is in the backfield on a regular basis. So there's something for him to think about that entire game.
T.Y. Hilton is out. So, so if you do think that Wentz and this offense can do something against Seattle, then you look at as all their receivers are cheap. Michael Pittman, he's 4.1. Paris Campbell's 3.7. Zach Pascal's 3.7. So you have a cheap build. So that those kind of cheap players will allow you to go back and pay for the Derrick Henry and the Dalvin Cooks.
That's a good point.
And whoever else you want to play. That's if you think, that 48.5 total, if they can keep up their 23 implied team total, then, there's some value there.
There is.
Look for some value because you do need some cheap plugs. So, again, that's the part that you think for yourself. Do you think Wentz can do it? If he's like, you know what, I do think so. Okay, we'll play him.
Go for it.
I don't like Wentz, though.
I'm not in the camp of Carson Wentz.
Yeah. Do like Jonathan Taylor a little bit, though. He's a, bell cow running back, probably touched the ball 20 times. You wonder if they don't throw it to him a lot, if they get behind and kind of go to the pass a little bit. Wentz does like his tight ends, though. So, there's the Jack Doyles of the world and Mo Alley Cox. But that's going deep, especially having season long. But that's digging deep. So, but I think Seattle is the side of that game to really focus on a little bit.
Yeah, and in Seattle, though, at the same time, Seattle put out a lot of points to start the year last year, and then at the end of the next season, at the end of the season, they started. I mean, they were giving up. They were giving up over 21 points a game up until like week 11, and then it was like 17, 3, 15, 9, and so because their defense started to tune in, even though they were playing like the Jets, the Giants, the Eagles. You could see a difference in their defense, and I think that's what it was.
I remember they had that Sunday night game against the Cardinals last year. Where,
that was 37-33.
Lockett had like 15 catches of 200-something yards.
A lot of burning.
Again,
so
which all the more reason to play Julio and AJ.
Exactly. And so the point is with this, Seattle, the good thing to think about is that they are definitely going to pass a lot because that Indy defensive line is ridiculous. It's still good from last year. They're going to be good. So,
but I'd say at the end of the day, Gerald Everett is probably my favorite play out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Just Gerald Everett. Feeling the tight end.
Everett's going to be
in a
monstrous.
system. He's going to know,
Yeah, he's going to be a monster.
Play Gerald Everett.
Play Gerald Everett. All right. Let's jump into the next game. We have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Atlanta Falcons in the Dome.
In the Dome.
So you've got new quarterback in Philly versus a team whose defense which has been questionable. So we've got to see what it's going to look like. Let's start with Philly. What you feeling?
Kind of like Jalen Hurts, but I don't like him with the stack so much. He runs a little bit. Some question marks on receivers, some decent receivers, but just they all cheap. If you like Jalen Hurts, they are all cheap.
Yeah.
And they are playing against the perfect defense in the Dome to be able to figure this out. But I kind of like going with just Miles Sanders at him. Atlanta usually gives up a lot of fantasy points to pass catching running backs. And Miles Sanders fits that bill. So if Jalen Hurts can be patient and if he's not running and kind of check it down to him, I think those two guys together, I think is probably some of the better plays. Not really into the Zach Ertz Goddard thing. I could be very wrong about that. But for the price, I like these other tight.
Because you got Dallas Goedert and you have Zach Ertz. Yes. That's probably the safest thing to pick with Philadelphia is going to be the tight ends and Miles Sanders.
Yeah, and they're a little pricey for me on DK this week in this matchup.
Yeah, because when I look at their roster, it just nothing
enthusiastic.
Yeah, nothing about this excites me.
So with Jalen Hurts, it's just a pretty good matchup to look at. If you like Jalen Hurts, if you're just a Sooner fan, you just want to stack and stack and stack.
If you want to go Sooner / Crimson Tide, then go ahead and stack them. But Jalen Reagor and Greg Ward, even though he was pretty decent for the most part, but Devontae Smith might be the only option if you stack with Jalen Hurts. But I promise you, I would not recommend him.
If you play Jalen Hurts, I would play a lot of the other side. If you play Jalen Hurts, you think that he kind of got off and that it's a shootout and Atlanta's coming back on the other side. And so when we're going through these game stacks, that's the thing. If you like that one side, look at the other because you're thinking the game is going to shoot out.
Yep.
So you want some pieces on both sides.
On both sides of the plate.
And I do like the Atlanta side.
Let's dive right into Atlanta right now.
I do have Matt Ryan here at 16. He's almost a little higher. You want to play him for this week because there's so many cheat quarterbacks. But, can you see Matt Ryan throwing 300 yards against Philly? Yes, they stop the run and they allow you to pass. They're a great run defense.
And they've had questionable corners for like the last 10 years, it feels like.
I never invest in, I don't say never invest. I don't invest anymore in Atlanta's running back. So, but he's got these, Calvin Ridley, I think, is just a play of all plays this week. When you building that roster, you'll probably have you a mid-range and a high-price receiver. I think Calvin Ridley is one of the better plays of the week.
And honestly, what's funny, I'm looking at this and thinking about it. When it comes to what Atlanta has to offer, especially now adding Kyle Pitts into the mix, I'm thinking one thing to do, and we're going to dive into him in just a second, is going back to Gerald Everett and adding him. You might want to go tight end and flex another tight end, especially at the price.
For the price this week, some people say, it's risky because of the floor that you get with a tight end, because that's just
true.
We're risking it with some of these 3K. I say you bounce back and forth. But if your bill leads to that, let me tell you no. But, especially in DFS, you are chasing the ceiling. So, but I will say this about Kyle Pitts. He'll move all over the field. He'll play in the slot. He'll line up. He'll move. He'll line up, and then he'll move out. He'll get stuck with a tight end. So he's going to be, dare I ever compare anybody to Travis Kelce. But Kyle Pitts is going to be like, or he should be, from what we know. Of course, he's never played an NFL game.
Between him and Kittle, they should be between Kelce and Kittle. He should
play a receiver-type role at tight end. And this week, he's only 4-4. They got a 25.7 implied game total. That's 3+ touchdowns that they have. And
for him.
For Atlanta. So between Ridley, Pitts, and, you even throw Russell Gage. Julio's gone, and those are – and Ryan likes his tight ends. Ryan uses his tight ends. He's a smart, competent quarterback. He's just older now.
Hooper was really good. Austin Hooper paid me really good. Yes. Who was it? Not Hayden Hurst.
I was going to say Hayden Hurst even.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst was there. Yeah, it was Hurst that was there. It's him and another one that Hunter Henry that I always get mixed up for no apparent reason.
Double H.
The double H's, exactly. But no, Hurst did good, and so did Austin Hooper when he was there in Atlanta. Yeah. That was one thing. Tony Gonzalez when he was in.
They utilize their tight ends.
They use their tight ends all the time.
So that over the years, these tendencies of these teams, and I won't say they don't change, but you know that about them. So you plug them in. They're in a great matchup. They in this dome. Matt Ryan, he's broken my heart several times.
Breaks all our hearts.
But, DK has the 300-yard bonus, so that's one thing with him is that, especially, if they start losing for some reason, they're going to keep throwing it, and he's
nonstop.
He's a candidate to get 300 yards on Sunday for
exactly.
sure.
So don't worry. Atlanta's going to do what Atlanta always does and makes it to where Atlanta needs to do what they do. So
Pitts will be popular, I think, on Sunday.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so that's something to look at. All right, let's dive on into the next game. The game to me, this is the game of the week. Of the weekend. This is the game that I feel like if you're going to pick a lot of people from one side or the other, you might want to start digging into this one. It's going to be the Cleveland Browns traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs.
Yes.
This is going to be a ridiculously high. It's a 53-point total now.
Hopefully.
It's the highest, I think, so far right now.
So far, yes. If it's right 53 now. Total, Kansas City's leading the slate with 25.5-point implied total.
Yep. Kansas City's 29. Yeah, 29 that good.
Yeah. Now, the playoffs are different from the regular season.
Yes.
They came out in the playoffs with, I think it said either a 55 or 57-point game total.
Mm-hmm.
And they scored 39. Like, that was the total of the game.
Yep.
It was a slow-paced game. Cleveland tried to run them. They tried to keep Mahomes on the bench.
That was their goal. Their goal was to keep Mahomes off. And the one thing that they realized is that doesn't always work.
No.
If your defense doesn't come out to play too. Yes. Now, the Browns defense I feel like is better.
They're pretty good.
I think they're pretty good.
They're good.
I think top to bottom, they have one of the best rosters in the NFL. And it's a lot of talking heads have talked about it. Yeah. I agree with them on this.
Yeah.
So, this is the biggest piece for them is making sure they execute. They get Odell Beckham Jr. back. Mm-hmm. You got Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Jarvis Landry.
I don't want to like Beckham.
Austin Hooper.
I don't want to like Beckham he is, again, I always say that everybody in week one, they're mispriced. He's only 5'4". He shouldn't be that low. Russell Gage is 5'3".
I'm gonna say I'm gonna disagree with you there.
Okay.
I think he's actually too high. I think he should be closer to a 4'8", 4'9", and this is why. The expectation is that they're going to force the ball into his hands.
Yeah. And, Baker did that a lot, and I think that was a problem. So, we talk about chasing these targets, and Beckham would get 10, 12, but Baker was just forcing it. So he was just throwing it to him and throwing it, and they were not quality targets.
Right.
So if they correct it, because, we talked about him being only 5'4", Landry, he's more expensive than Beckham. That should be telling you something.
Yep.
But I will say that my favorite play on this side of the game, it may be of the week if Cleveland makes it a game, is Nick Chubb. I really want to smash the button on Nick Chubb.
I can see that.
Kansas City cannot stop the run. And if they stick to their game plan, kind of stick to their guns. And so with the running backs in this game, you either Nick Chubb because it's close or Kareem Hunt if they're behind.
Yep.
Because Chubb comes off the field when it's a passing situation, and
he does.
Throw it to Nick, and they throw it to Hunt. And so when Hunt got into the mix last year, we saw them both be relevant, because of the pass game situation. So, but I'm kind of making on Nick Chubb. I like Chubb this week.
I can dig that.
I like Chubb.
Chubb's a good one.
Chubby Wubby.
You go with Chubb. So do you feel like stacking with Baker Mayfield's a good idea with him at being 5.9?
I hate to say no, but not this week. No.
Okay.
I don't think I don't think that's the matchup on the road. Kansas City don't have the worst secondary. Again, you run the ball on them.
Yeah, your goal, the way to be the most successful against Kansas City is to keep Mahomes off the field.
And you can do that if you can successfully run the ball and clock
manage.
Yeah,
and the thing is, Cleveland can do that.
Chubb can do that. Chubb can break off big runs. I like Chubb, and you can play Hooper at 4K. Baker likes his tight ends. We talked about him coming from Atlanta. He was productive last year, though the tight end position can get a little murky in Cleveland. Because you got Hooper, you got Njoku.
Yep.
And then they went and drafted last year. He was a rookie last year. They drafted Harrison Bryant. He was a Mackey Award winner. So you got 3 tight ends. You got 2 receivers. So you're almost kind of beginning to get too many hard to kind of, okay, if you're going to stack Baker, who are you going to throw him with? You're starting to get a lot of people because Beckham went down. Landry's more of the target guy. They need to, I think, if they use Beckham like he did in New York, push him upfield.
That's a good point.
Throw your targets, throw under the Landry, but, that's rational coaching, and we're not the coaches, and all we can do is play what they do.
Exactly. Now, one to think about too with this team is you can consider the defense for Cleveland more so than Kansas City, and this is the reason why. Cleveland's going to walk into there knowing that the Kansas City defense will take a whole bunch of risk. The reason why they take a lot of risk is because they have the great eraser on their team in Patrick Mahomes. They can go down 2 or 3 touchdowns, and guess what Patrick Mahomes is going to do? Find a way to get them back in the game quickly. Not slowly, but quickly.
They score fast.
If the Browns can find a way defensively to make it difficult, especially with Myles Garrett and that pass rush going in there, really going after Mahomes, they could just keep him under pressure, especially because they got a new line. The thing that the Kansas City will not probably do this game is run. Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I liked him coming in. Yeah. He wasn't what we thought he was going to be last year, but also their offensive line was in shambles. And then we saw how bad it got in the Super Bowl.
Do you ever really see Mahomes? Not Mahomes. Do you ever see Andy Reid just have, this dominant running back?
He had Brian Westbrook for a long time.
Well, dominant. Okay, so
they mixed it up.
Running back sense, because in those Philly days, Brian Westbrook was one of the better receivers he had on his team.
Exactly, they did both. He did both.
He did both. They had a lot of duels. They had to. I think that was out of necessity.
Exactly. And because that's out of necessity, and because of the way the team has to be. Yeah. Even with McNabb in those days, they had Deuce Staley. They had running backs. Right. It's just. The thing to remember with the way Andy Reid, he likes to run and pass, but he's got Mahomes. He can't be stupid enough to think that he needs to run too much.
That statement, a good running back, especially when you can pick any running back. Do you think the CEH is going to touch the ball 20 times? Or
no. Okay. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not going to see the ball that much.
6.6K.
That's too much. Now, I think he's priced at that for goal line purposes. Right. Which makes sense. But that's still too high. Yeah, he's overpriced. Don't touch Kyle Edwards-Helaire this week. Don't touch him this week.
For 125, 2 touchdowns.
He probably will just to prove me wrong. But I feel like he is overpriced this week because that Browns defense is actually good. So
yeah, I do respect that. But, so with that said, I think that you do stack Kansas City, but you play Mahomes and Hill.
Yep.
You play Mahomes and Kelsey. You play Kelsey with some cheap receivers because Kelsey, he's like 8,300, I believe, and he's like a receiver. He's
a wide receiver. He's
a receiver.
If you want to put him at flex, if you feel more comfortable put him at a flex, you can. But he is definitely worth the price of admission.
You throw in Hardman. You can play them, the other answer. But you stack Mahomes, you can stack them anyway because they're going to score. Even if Cleveland plays them tough, it's just, they can score fast and it don't take much for Mahomes to hit that ceiling. So
agreed.
Don't fade them.
Agreed. All right. So
and you think Cleveland covers that too, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I'll talk about that in my Frozen 5 and explain one of those. That's a little teaser of some of the teams that I'm actually picking through here. So last game for us to dive into. Always a excuse to play Chubb. Gotta get that Chubb out there. Minnesota traveling to Cincinnati. Now, this one's a total at 48 right now.
Yes.
You may think it's weird that we would select Minnesota Vikings and the Cincinnati Bengals.
It's like my sneaky shootout game.
We're here at Daily Fantasy Sports on DraftKings to win money. How do you win money? It's finding those weird, obscure games that are low-hanging fruit, basically. Ones that people really don't think about. Kirk Cousins throws the ball. So start with Minnesota. Kirk Cousins airs it out. He's either going to be really good or really bad.
Yeah, it needs to be they really good and let him throw, or it's a Dalvin Cook dominated game. One or the other. And you really, so when you're trying to get it on this side, you start thinking about how the game is going to play. Mm-hmm. You got a 48 game total. Minnesota's favored by 3.5. Their implied team total is 25. And the good thing with Minnesota is straightforward.
Yep.
Cousins and Jefferson, and then Cousins and Thielen.
That's it.
It's a straight tree. And Dalvin Cook as the runner, and I think that he should eat. I wonder what Minnesota's going to do with D.D. Westbrook. They got him if he can stay healthy. He's a 3K receiver. He's priced at minimum price.
He is good. He's a good filler. He's a good filler if you're going to load your team up with a bunch of high price guys.
A decent. I wouldn't call him a good, but he's one of those. Again, we talk about building your player pool. He's just one of the guys hadn't X'd out yet. Maybe by the time you write the report, in or out of it, and then by the time you actually start building on Sunday, because sometimes you get to the button, you're just like, I just can't click them.
Even with that, think about it with it, and this is why I say D.D. Westbrook is a good at the 3K, is that at some point he's going to produce this year. At some point he's going to get some numbers. He's going to have a high game. Yeah, so it's something to always keep in the back of your mind of, okay, I need to just fill it with one more spot. I've only got just under 4K.
Yeah, Cousins will throw the ball upfield, and
and DD's a burner.
Jefferson and Westbrook at 3K, it takes one play.
Yeah,
and we do know that about Cousins. When they throw the ball and they let him throw, he's a veteran quarterback. He'll throw it upfield. He's not afraid to take a 50-yard shot upfield.
Right, exactly. That's something to think about.
And it's not like we're scared of Cincinnati's defense.
Oh no, there's nothing
at all.
What's fearful about Cincinnati's defense?
At all.
I mean, this is not Marvin Lewis's defense, and this is not something that you should even be. Yeah, nothing to even consider with them. So okay, let's go into this. Cincinnati. I like Joe Burrow in week 1 with T. Higgins. T. Higgins paid me very well in my season long. Okay. I think he's worth looking at.
Yes.
Don't touch Jamar Chase this week.
Because he dropped them balls that makes everybody want to run.
He already talked about how difficult it is catching the ball because the way the ball is different than it is in college. Gotcha. He's in his own head right now.
Right.
Pull back. He's got the quote unquote yips. Yeah. I hate to say it, but he's got the yips.
And I couldn't ever stop. You played T. Higgins. I've played Tyler Boyd for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I really had no problem with going with them two. Just because I'm a knucklehead, I'm trying to figure out why Jamar Chase, all these other rookies are 3K.
Yep.
He's 4.0. He's 4.8. Those algorithms, they got him. He might have it in his head, but I think that he's going to be out on the field. He's going to
play. He's probably going to get the highest targets of anybody. Yeah. I'm still questioning if he's going to catch all of them. Yes.
And that's the thing with Burrow and him. They played together in college. And
they're national champions together. I watched them torch the Sooners. And me and Jimmy talk about that quite often. It works.
So with Cincinnati, and you kind of talk about some defenses, I do have, a little bit of pause. A little research has led to, some O-line, D-line. Minnesota's D-line just might completely overpower Cincinnati's.
Yep.
And that will be trouble for Burrow. Some games he's going to be, because before he got injured, he was throwing 300 yards every game. He was a 300-yard machine on DK.
Yep.
He gave me and gave out. And it was Tyler Boyd. It was T. Higgins, but it was a lot of Tyler Boyd. And it was Tyler Boyd even before Burrow. Tyler Boyd is one of these receivers like Mclaurin that catches from anybody. Doesn't matter who's throwing it to him. He can get open and he makes plays, and they're all reasonable price. So we had got to defenses, but the Dalvin Cook Minnesota defense stack isn't a bad way to look at some things this week. I think that's why Minnesota's favored so heavily, especially with a 25-point total. That's a pretty high total. It's a high total.
It is. It's a very high total.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, another game to think about as we wrap up these. These are the games that we made mention of. You have your Cardinals and Titans. You have the Seahawks and the Colts. Yep. You have the Eagles and the Falcons, the Browns and Chiefs, as well as the Vikings and the Bengals as teams to keep in consideration. A couple more high total games that you should consider thinking about. Packers and Saints, Bills and Steelers. Yep. We'll talk about additional quarterbacks. And let's actually go into quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's some other quarterbacks.
Other quarterbacks to look at.
Yep, not in those game stacks. First one, Sam Darnold. He's cheap. Might be a bum, but we don't know. We talked about the new coaches.
Yes, new coach, new system, new everything.
He's got now. He's never had. You got Robbie Anderson. We got DJ Moore. We've seen them burn people with Kyle Allen at quarterback. He's got Christian McCaffrey to
do everything. He's going to run and he's going to catch.
So you got a good. And then one of my 3K rookie receivers I'm looking at is Terence Marshall on this team.
Ooh, I didn't think about Terence.
Do at that number 3 spot with him, and when you look at Darnold and Robbie Anderson, revenge game against the Jets, week 1. You go into the team that really tried to kill both of your careers.
Yep.
And we actually saw Robbie Anderson be decent with the Jets, with whoever was throwing him the ball in those days. And I think Carolina can be sneaky good. They have a decent implied team total, and they heavily favorite. And again, what do you fear about the New York Jets defense? I can't really.
The same thing that we hear about them every year. Nothing.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing, and it's probably going to be the same story with the Jets. It just perennially sucks. So
all right,
I think you'll play them.
A couple of other ones to look at is going to be the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, new young quarterback. A lot of young weapons. I don't see that game being that bad for them. No. I think that there's a chance you may get something out of Trevor.
This will be one of the few games that the Jags will be favored to win. You're going against Houston, who has a terrible defense.
How are you a favorite with a rookie quarterback and an abysmal team? But, they're playing the Texans. Of course they're going to be favorites.
And, I think DJ Shark is going to have a really great year. If Trevor Lawrence is decent, I think you'll see. I think you see a breakout from him. One of my favorite targets in the game really is James Robinson, running back. Houston always can't stop the run. They're one of the people that you can just run on. James Robinson, clear number 1 back. It was like that last year. Good price. So, like Trevor Lawrence, like James Robinson, Marvin Jones, if he's healthy, he's 3.6. Laviska Shenault, 5K. But, if Trevor Lawrence is slinging the ball, it's going to be those 3 guys.
Right. Okay, next up. Simple. Bills and Steelers. Yeah. Josh Allen is always a money man. Yeah. Because Diggs right now is questionable for the game, he probably will play.
I will. Okay. If for some reason Diggs don't play,
Cole Beasley,
lock Cole Beasley in.
Because that's going to be Josh Allen's. He's going to be his blanket. He's going to be safety net.
Now, before that, Josh Allen, Diggs, they're at the bottom of the list because regardless of what we think of Big Ben, being older. I don't target Pittsburgh's defense very often.
Yeah.
There's still a defense to respect, and you're trying to hit some ideal fantasy spots, and going up against that type of defense is not, something that you want to just walk into. And, does that mean I'm not going to stack Allen and Diggs in the lineup? Probably. Right. But if Diggs for some reason don't play, and that's going to go for any week during the season, if Beasley's in and Diggs is out, play him. Agreed.
It's full season. That's a full season nugget to save in. If Diggs is out, Beasley at all times. Yeah. Beasley's out, Diggs nonstop. Hit hammer button. And then with the Steelers, I expect Najee Harris to be better than expected. I think that they're going to finally get back to having their offensive line. And also, older quarterbacks like Ben Roethlisberger, you play them early. You play them within the first 5 weeks. Yeah. Because this is when they're going to come out fresh. Yeah. They're going to be good. They're going to look like they're back to their old selves. And then by the time the 10th week hits, they hit that wall and they start to go down.
Play Ben when he's at home.
Yep.
Don't play him on the road either. Another touchdown.
Yep. Ben is fantastic.
At home. He's terrible on the road.
He is not very good on the road, and they're on the road this game. But this is young This is young Ben Roethlisberger in the season. This is his young version of the season. You can use him. All right.
The last two.
Mac Jones and the Patriots against the Dolphins. Now, I was looking at Tua Tagovailoa, and I was considering touching him. Nope. But numbers-wise, he's not worth it this week.
No, not this week. Yeah, division games are terrible for fantasy. Well, I won't say they're terrible, but, the division games tend to hit the under.
Only time you go for a division game is when you have a dominant team like the Bills playing against a very bad team like the Jets.
There you go. Mac Jones is cheap. We talked about that misprice. He's 4-4. He was priced as a backup for Cam. Cam's out. And I thought, with these two tight ends, I actually like both of his tight ends. I wouldn't play them together, but I think that Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's a little more expensive than Jonnu, but I think one of those two has a big games. I think that Bill Belichick is getting to his old ways.
Yep.
I like Damian Harris. I think that Ramondre Stevenson is going to be something there.
Oh, Ramondre is going to be nasty.
Yeah, so he's got a stable of players. You got and James White in the pass catching situation. So he's got a stable of running backs.
Yep.
He's got his two tight end set. And I think he's going back to the old way. And, those are coming for young quarterbacks. And then the last two quarterbacks, I don't really like Aaron Rodgers in DFS this week. Too priced up. Might get a high-scoring game, but I think that game's going to move a little slower than people think.
Yeah, because in Jacksonville. They're playing actually in Jacksonville. So it's a quote-unquote neutral site game since everything that's happened with Hurricane Ida. That's going to be weird for everybody. But I think Jameis Winston going back to Florida, playing close to Tallahassee.
Yep. Yeah, Winston,
he is someone to consider. Him and Alvin Kamara, if there's two that I would think about all season long, keep in the back of your head, is him and Kamara. Because I think that because Winston plays a more up-tempo type game and he likes to throw it deep.
Yeah, you can
run give you some numbers.
Yes, you can run on Green Bay, so that's why you like Kamara.
Yep.
I hope that Winston gets coached to dump it down a little bit more.
I think he will.
It to his running backs.
He didn't, but I think he will now. I mean, remember, he learned his tutelage was under Drew Brees and Sean Payton.
Yep.
I think that they will leverage that.
Yeah, one of the more popular players that's going to be out there at 3.4. And, he's broken my heart before because every time Michael Thomas is out, we chase these no-name guys into, and I don't call them no-name, but we chase these Traquan Smiths. But Marcus Callaway, he's 3.4. With Winston, you're going to have a lot of people playing him. So keep him in that cheap player pool.
Yep.
He's not one of my favorites, and I just don't know why. But he's just not, and I could be very, very wrong about that because if Winston throws for 350 yards, it's going to be Callaway.
Yep.
Just keep that in mind.
So okay.
I'm going to go to running backs now.
All right.
That's a lot of quarterbacks. When I write the report, I really like 8 to 9.
Yeah.
But it's week 1, and it's, some of these are just hard to write off. At least, once you get a little closer, you can. But, that's a lot of quarterbacks, a lot more quarterbacks than normal.
Yep.
In this final week, I will say that.
With that, now remember, you can check us out on our Instagram at unfair_sports. We'll have lineups posted there on Sunday before games. We'll actually have them on Saturday night, Sunday. We'll have you some lineups for you to work with, some ideas just to keep you going. This is a lot of information, so it can get overwhelming, but don't trip. This is going to be... You'll be able to digest this easily when you start realizing, okay, all I need to do is pick a starting point, pick a quarterback, pick a stack, or pick a high-end running back, and build around that. And we will be there with you every step of the way. We'll give you examples with each player, each setup, so for you to go and play with. Take this information with everything else you pull in. So we're going to rapid fire through our running backs and wide receivers as we're coming up on time. Let's go, dive in. Running backs, high-end guys. Three high-end guys that keep your minds on. Christian McCaffrey.
They should crush the Jets.
He will always put money. He's always borderline worth money. Why? Because Christian McCaffrey always produces. Nick Chubb. He's our favorite running back of the week.
Yeah, right now he is. Early week. With Derrick Henry.
Yes. And then Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb are our favorites of the week. Christian McCaffrey is going to be your higher end guy. Him and Alvin Kamara, because they both are higher end, high volume guys. Yep. Keep that in mind.
Dalvin Cook is going to be a good play. We talked about that Cincinnati matchup. Cousins will throw it, but Zimmer, he's old school. He kind of likes to keep the game, so he wants to run the ball. He kind of wants to keep to the basis, and so that plays well because we know his tendency. So
exactly,
Dalvin Cook's a good play. We talked about James Robinson, that Houston cannot stop the run, and that's just period. That's last year. That's the year before, and just don't see it stopping. We said that Jacksonville might actually be favored, so that always helps a running back because you're trying to run with the lead, trying to kill some clock.
Yep.
Get some good goal line situations.
With a combination of Jonathan Taylor and Raheem Mostert and Trey Sermon, who probably will get some burn too.
Yes.
Keep this in mind. Jonathan Taylor and Hines?
Mm-hmm.
I always forget his first name. Naheem Hines. There you go. Those four, there's going to be time splits.
Yeah.
I know the Colts won't. I know that
Yeah.
Colts want Hines to get more touches, and he's more of a catcher too.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Taylor is your pounder.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert and Trey Sermon, they're going to both split work as well.
Yes.
So keep that in mind.
So
That's
they're
not
the
something.
favorite. They're just kind of in that pool. But like I put, Detroit, they're going to give up fantasy points, and they just are. In San Francisco, they run the ball like they're passing it.
Yeah.
And,
and right now they have to because their quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo, who likes to throw interceptions with his eyes closed.
And I just could not figure out what to do about San Francisco because actually they have a 27-point implied team total this week.
Yep.
And it's like, it's hard to, so you might just play George Kittle and move on. Let's see if you can trust that somebody can throw him the ball.
Last one I'd say on here that makes that's something to not really touch.
We talked about Harris.
I wouldn't touch Damian Harris, James Conner, or Chase Edmonds. Kind of
one of them two is going to do something relevant. We just don't know what Arizona's going to go out here and do because Kyler. The problem with those running backs in Arizona is Kyler Murray steals goal line carries and touchdowns.
Yes, he does.
He runs down there, so that takes away some value out of that.
And that's something that's key and important too when it comes to your quarterbacks.
Maybe
it's like when
busted his shoulder, made me stop running. So
well,
much.
no, he's going
Probably
to
not.
because he knows how to slide. That's the only thing that's good about him. He's a baseball player.
Right.
That's the problem you have with a quarterback like Cam Newton. Even as great as he is, the problem is he takes away points from everybody else because he runs.
That's why I keep coming back to New England. So maybe there's some points that's left on the field between your Damon Harris's. And now you got your
Ramondre Stevenson
and
your two tight ends.
So if Mac Jones actually gonna put the ball in the air down there, because Cam took away from a lot of people, and
we don't know what Mac's gonna do yet because he's young. He's probably gonna spread it a lot.
We don't know ability.
We don't know who his favorite is yet. That's what I'm gonna say.
That's true.
We don't know his favorite yet. He's gonna put up numbers.
That's true.
I'm going to predict that it's probably going to be tight end focused, just like old school ways, like when they had Aaron Hernandez as well as Gronk.
Why would you go sign those type of tight ends?
Exactly.
Donald Smith is a good tight end.
Yeah.
Hunter Henry is a good solid number one. Those are two number one tight ends.
So you're going to see a lot of two tight end fronts. So if you do anything with the Patriots, you go there. Wide receivers. That always go stacks on the ones we tell you.
Yeah, all the quarterbacks we talked about with you start with your core. If you like a quarterback, that's leading you to where you should begin with the wide receivers. So all the ones we mentioned, we don't need to go back to them. So some that we did not mention that without a quarterback, Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Last year, I think he carried like a 25% target share on his team. And so, he's got rapport with Justin Herbert.
Yep.
This week they're playing Washington, which, we
on the road, cross country.
Keenan Allen's a professional baller, however.
Yes.
So he will probably catch a touchdown on Sunday. I will say that.
At least.
I do believe he's like a touchdown call this week. In that same game, Terry McLaurin. I think he's a good we're back to Fitzmagic. We didn't talk about him because we didn't like the Staxxxx, but he has been in several Millie Maker lineups because he's just a straight gunslinger and he's always cheap.
Yep.
And so you got Terry McLaurin.
Week one, he is someone to consider. He is week one to consider.
Once I get back to the report and actually print that, you may see a little bit more of him. But I respect the Chargers defense. Mm-hmm. And from the Justin Herbert standpoint, I do respect that Washington defense too. But individually, Keenan Allen and Terry McLaurin to have productive target and games, I think is in play.
And bundle them two in with Devontae Adams. We don't even talk about Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams. He's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he is singly,
and Deebo Samuels.
Adams could be the best receiver in football, perhaps still, just consistently over the years. Stays healthy.
He stays healthy and he catches touchdowns.
You get inside.
Short,
that's where he's
deep,
throwing it to.
Whatever. So, that's something to consider as well.
I put in Deontay Johnson and Charles Claypool. It's not like Buffalo had the best defense last year. They did not. They far from the worst. But, if Ben's able to do something, I do think, and I kind of like them a little bit better than Juju. Juju, his ADOTs was, if that changes this year, but he'll have 6 catches for 38 yards. That's some PPR points for the 6, but the yards, not much. So, and then any cheap wide receiver that we talked about all those rookies that we talked about, Callaway.
Yeah.
If you can find,
just fill your roster.
If you like something, if you got to lean on it, you go there. So, tight ends, and tight end is like always my favorite. There's Antonio Brown touchdown.
Yeah.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, I love the fillers. The fillers are the key ones. Like you said, with shootouts like this, you want fillers, and that's what's going to be the key thing to add to your list. And let's wrap up defenders. Tight ends, we told you a whole bunch of tight ends. So there's a bunch of them to think about. Look at the report for that information. But defenses is one that you have to read the report on because it's going to be all based up on who we think will keep the game either at a certain pace. There'll be a lot of turnovers. Where we see more interceptions is typically where you look at your defense.
I think my favorite defense, price out the window, which is not worse. Probably look at Denver. I know they're traveling east, but the Giants are a mess. Danny Dimes is a mess.
Yes.
I remember you sent that interception he threw, I know that was the preseason, but that's him. Barkley may or may not play. He's limited. Slayton's hurt. Ingram's hurt. I mean, he's just terrible. They're terrible. Whoever's
Pitbull in the corners hurt. Everybody
playing
hurt.
The Jets, whoever's playing the Giants.
Jets, basically anybody playing up there in New York teams except for the Buffalo, you go for it. I like Washington a lot because Justin Herbert's going to be playing in a stadium for the first time with actual fans and it being really rowdy. Preseason doesn't count to me.
Which makes me like the Logan Thomases of the world.
Yep.
I didn't put Antonio Gibson in there with Washington, but there might be some. But I do like Washington's defense, though. Yeah,
Washington's defense is a big one. Minnesota may give you some good stuff against Cincinnati. Yep. So keep them in mind.
If they can get to Burrow, it'll be based on if they can get to Burrow, that'll be their success.
And now Houston, Jacksonville to wrap it up. Now I'm gonna tell you this: I like Jacksonville's defense against Tyrod Taylor, trying to figure out what to do with the Texans. Yeah. They are in shambles. Now they may prove me wrong and actually be world beaters, but they are in shambles.
If you had anybody, you could. Brandon Cooks is like the only probably fantasy piece in that game that you'll ever use. Ever. And take advantage of that.
Yeah. All right.
Good situation.
So keep in mind, the OSG report does come out. We'll have it out on Saturdays to where you can read through, making your decisions on what you want. You can find that on our Medium page, medium.com/unfair. You'll see it listed as number 1 with the OSG report. I'll make sure to add that on there, as well as we'll tweet it out on our Twitter account. We'll put it on the Facebook account as well. So wherever you follow us, you will see it somewhere. And also with that, thank you for checking us out here with Unfair Sports, where we take offensive reports to the sports conversation. For Bob, Mike, and Wendy. Sorry, Bob. Thank you all so much for doing the production thing on the back end, and for my boy OSG. We will, like I said, keep this every week. We'll have some information for you all. And with that, see you at the top. We'll chop it up in a few days. Peace.